Welcome to Coffee Break, that little moment where I put the flute aside, I take a sip of coffee, and I slow things down for you. So grab yourself a coffee, sit back, and enjoy the pause. Today, I'm going to speak about something we have all heard thousands of times in music. Talent. Does it really exist? Or is it just hard work and practice? And we have been telling the story wrong. And more importantly, how does this relate to what we actually observe in students and in ourselves? Today, I want to explore this with you using cognitive science, behavioral genetics, and real teaching experience, leaving the myths at the door. When we say talent, we often imagine something almost magical. Like a switch, you either have it or you don't. Science completely rejects that idea. There is no single musician gene. Musical ability is not one thing. It's a system of interacting traits, pitch discrimination, rhythm synchronization, auditory working memory, and fine motor control. Each of these develops through its own mix of biology and training. So instead of a mysterious singular talent, what we actually have is a multidimensional profile. And every individual starts from a different baseline. Now, genetics do matter. Twin studies show that basic music abilities like pitch and rhythm perception have a heritability of roughly 40 to 60%. But here is where we misunderstand that completely. Heritability doesn't mean that 60% of your skill is genetic. It means that, across a population, 60% of the differences between people can be statistically attributed to genetic variation. That's a completely different statement. Genetics is not destiny. It's a distribution of starting points. And musical ability is polygenic. Potentially thousands of small genetic influences interacting together. But here is the key insight. Genes don't just influence ability. They also influence behavior. They shape your attention span, your working memory, and I find this very important, how rewarding you find practice. This is called gene-environment correlation. So your biology doesn't just set your level. It subtly nudges you towards the environment that will reinforce it. And yes, some critics argue that twin studies overestimate genetics because twins share environment. But most recent DNA-based studies confirm that genetic explains a meaningful part of these initial differences. Now, practice is absolutely essential. So go practice. Practice literally rewires the brain through neuroplasticity. But not all practice is equal. The real engine of improvement is deliberate practice. Structured, focused, feedback-driven work just outside your comfort zone. And here we need to kill a myth. The famous 10,000-hour rule is not a scientific law. The best evidence shows that deliberate practice explains roughly 20 to 25% of the variant, depending on how it's measured. That's significant, but that's not the whole story. The remaining variation include cognitive factors such as genetics, working memory, quality of teaching, very important, and also something very important, measurement noise. Human performance is complex. Not everything can be captured by our models. And another critical factor, timing. Because of sensitive periods in brain development, starting at age 5 is not the same as starting at 25. Early training physically shape neural architecture in ways that later practice cannot fully replicate. This doesn't mean that starting late is pointless. This means that, on average, trajectories differ, and reaching the highest levels becomes statistically less likely. And here's a twist. as practice accumulates, genetic differences don't disappear. They become more visible. Practice doesn't level the field. It amplifies individual trajectories. And here comes a very important point for me. If we are not very rigorous with what we know, we will inevitably fill the gaps with something else. And we humans, we are so good at doing that. We like to explain the unexplained with vague concepts like gift, energy, that's something special. The problem is not that these words are poetic. For me, the problem is that they stop the inquiry. They replace understanding with narrative. We didn't stop doing that as a species. We just upgraded our vocabulary. Clarity is harder than storytelling. That's why we default to stories. So sometimes the most rigorous thing we can say is just, look, we understand part of the system, but other parts, basically, we don't know yet. And that's not a weakness. That's just intellectual honesty. So, okay, let's bring back all of this to the practice room, but still I have a little bit of coffee. So coffee break is not finished yet, okay? Okay, now, from both science and real teaching experience, there is one thing that is clear. You don't need an extraordinary genetic profile to become a strong musician. But there is a fundamental loop that must be present. The ability to perceive differences. Also, the ability to internally represent them. That's called audiation. And then, finally, the ability to physically imitate them. This is an auditory motor loop. If you can hear the nuance, your brain can eventually learn to reproduce it. If you want, it's like adjusting a mirror. The clearer the reflection, the more precisely you can correct the movement. Most students who reach a high level already possess a functional baseline in these abilities. True congenital amusia is relatively rare. So for the vast majority of people, the difference is not a missing talent. It is how deeply they listen, how effectively they compare, and how efficiently they translate sound into movement. Now, does everyone has the same sailing? Current evidence does not support that. But it also doesn't support a purely deterministic view. A more accurate model is a threshold framework. And we also have to acknowledge something comfortable. Survivorship bias. In conservatoires, we mostly see the people who didn't quit. There is something clear. Effort builds skill. But it doesn't build skill at the same speed and in every brain. Music is not magic. But if you don't understand the system, it's very easy to believe that it is. Coffee break is finishing. So let's talk in the comments. I'm very curious where you stand with this. Have a nice day and see you very soon.